Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel, where we tell you about the top 3 best-selling science fiction and fantasy books on Amazon. So you have some stuff to read this weekend. I'm the editor here at MetaStellar, and with me today are some of our MetaStellar team members. We've got Emma Foster, our anthology editor, Terrence Smith, our art editor, and Regina Clarke, one of the members of our writers community. Hi, guys. So they all helped with the reviews, and they're going to tell you about the books that they read. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of these videos. And so you can get the books while they're free. They do not stay free for long. So what happens is that authors and publishers make their books free for like a few days in order to get interest in a latest release in a series or in the entire series. And then the book stops being free. So you got to jump on them quickly. And today we have the #1 pick is a box set of a complete trilogy of an epic fantasy by a USA Today best-selling author. So stick around to the end because we're going to go the books 5, 4, 3, 2, and then end on book #1, the #1 best-selling free science fiction and fantasy book on Amazon. So let's get into it with book #5. And here it is. This is The Librarian of the Haunted Library by Brian Yansky. And I read the beginning of this book. So the way we work is we read the first few chapters of each book and we tell you what we think of the beginning because there's no time to read the whole book. By the time we finish the book, it won't be free anymore. So we read the first few chapters over lunch, we write up the review, we edit it, and then we bring it to you as fast as we humanly can. So this book is the first of 13 books in the strangely scary, funny urban fantasy series. The other books are $4 each, but they're all in Kindle Unlimited. So Kindle Unlimited is where you pay $12 a month and you read all the books you want, as long as you don't mind being part of the whole Amazon thing. But it's a good deal if you read a lot. And I am a member of Kindle Unlimited, so that is something I pay attention to because that means I can read 13 books for no additional price. Okay, so based on the cover of this book, the font size and the cartoonish house, I immediately thought this was going to be a funny, cozy, magical mystery. And I was wrong. That's what I was looking forward to. And I was a little disappointed. So the book opens with the protagonist turning 18 and finally being able to leave the foster system, which was a pretty difficult experience, and where they had to use their powers of hypnosis to survive. And I use the word they because at first I didn't know if the protagonist was a guy or a girl. And I'm still thinking that this is a cozy magical mystery, and usually the protagonist is a young woman. So I kept going. The protagonist steals some money from their foster parents, takes a bus to New Orleans. They go to sleep in a park. Their backpack gets stolen. The next day, they wander around the city. We learn that they have something called the third eye, which means they can see magical things like ghosts. And then the next night, there's an interaction with a cop. And we finally learn that the protagonist's name is Kevin. So it is a guy, which I should have known if I'd paid attention to the cover because that's a man's silhouette there. Not a woman in a witch hat holding a cat, which is like what I would normally expect to see there. So Kevin goes to sleep by a river the next night, and when he wakes up, he's in the morgue. He's strapped down, and the medical examiner is about to cut him open. And Kevin's like, no, wait, I'm alive. And the medical examiner says, nope, you're dead. And Kevin has to use
He's not dead, but mostly dead. There's a difference between mostly dead and all dead.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of a discussion there between him and the medical examiner about how dead he actually was. And he wound up having to use his hypnotic powers on the medical examiner to figure out like why the medical examiner is so dead set to kill him. And apparently the guy was ordered to kill Kevin by a fallen angel working for Satan himself. Apparently, there's a prophecy that Kevin is a threat to the Satanists and will get in the way when the end of days come along. And if the medical examiner doesn't do what they say, then the Satanists will destroy him on social media, and he doesn't want that to happen. And the reason that he got involved with the Satanists in the first place is because he didn't really think that there was a Satan there, and he just wanted to pick up girls. So, that's where like the funny part comes in, right? So it is kind of cute, and I'm not going to spoil what happens next because there's a few tense moments there. But in the next chapter, we jump ahead by a year and we get a summary of what happened in the intervening months. And some of those things do sound interesting. And I felt a little cheated that we didn't get the whole story. Then the book skips ahead a few more years. So by this point, it's definitely clear that it's not a cozy magical mystery. The protagonist is not a charming, quirky woman with an annoying cat who talks to her, where she moves back to her small town full of amusingly quirky characters. Instead, the vibe I get is more of Dresden Files meets Jack Reacher. And there's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't what I expected, but once I kind of adapted to the fact that this book was something different, I was getting into it. Also, I looked up the Jack Reacher to get the link, and I found out that there's a new book out that I haven't read yet, and another one coming next month. So, like, woohoo! Anyway, so once I adjusted my expectations, I was getting into this book. Do I like it enough to keep reading? I do like the style. I'm a huge fan of the Dresden Files. They're all in Kindle Unlimited. All those are big pluses. But there's a bunch of other books that I'm reading right now, including a series of books I started on a previous Free Friday. And by the time I'm finished with that series, I may have forgotten about this book. But if I remember about this book, because it's, on my bookshelf, then I might go back to it. All right, next we have Soul of Smoke by Caitlyn McFarland. And it's the first of the two books we have on today's list that have dragons in them. And this book is the first of three books in the Dragon Sworn paranormal fantasy series. The other books are $6 each, but they are both in Kindle Unlimited. Emma read this for us. And Emma, what did you think of this book?
From the description of this book, it immediately reminded me of the series Fourth Wing. If you know anything about that series, and I honestly wasn't too much of a fan of that series, but this book looks promising because it seems like it offers more dragons and less romance, so I'm definitely gonna give it a shot. The book begins with Kai. She's this young woman and she dropped out of law school, but she spends her time mountain climbing in the Rockies. She's there with her best friend, and they're about to go on this trek up this mountain, but Kai is startled by something moving in the mountain. It looks like something had just fallen out of nowhere. And she and her friend decide to check it out. Kai and her friend discover a woman lying at the base of the mountain. Her leg is shattered. After some debating, Kai has her friend make the hike down to the main campsite a few hours away to get help, possibly bring a helicopter back so they can airlift this girl to the hospital. They manage to drag the girl to their camp, and the friend leaves. A few hours later, the injured girl wakes up. She immediately tries to walk back to where she came from, which is at the top of the mountain, by the way. And she's explaining that her brothers are in danger. She has to get back to them. So against her will, after some debate, Kai helps the girl return to the mountain. They climb all the way up the side. Surprisingly, the girl is stronger than she looks, so she's able to climb up the mountain. She and Kai make it there, and they find another campsite. So there's a bunch of tents just sitting there at the top of this mountain. And it looks like the girl's brothers are fine. They come out of the camp to meet her, and everyone's talking. Kai immediately focuses on how gorgeous both of the brothers are, and so there's a paragraphs describing how they look so beautiful and everything. But the brothers, the girl, and the rest of the campers, they recount how the girl had fallen off the mountain, how the brothers had escaped the people that they were fighting off, because they are fighting off a bunch of people, though Kai has no idea where these people are. And it becomes apparent that these people are dragons. The people who were fighting them were also dragons, because people are talking about how, like, I went and I flew into a cloud formation and I was able to lose them that way. And Kai has no idea what's going on here. But it turns out that not only are these people dragons, they can shift into human forms. And that's apparently why they look so amazingly gorgeous to Kai. It's because they're part dragon. So Kai watches in amazement as they transform into dragons and they get ready to fight off the enemy dragons that are coming for them because they're about to come back. And this is where I stopped reading, but I really enjoyed the beginning of this because I had lots of action. Kai seemed like a memorable character, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of dragon fighting in this one, at least in the beginning. Maybe it was just like that to just suck me in, so I might stick with it. I don't know if it's going to get like too heavy-handed out of the romance at some point. It probably will, but that's fine. And I also recommend it for people who happen to like dragons, dragon shifters, and very likely romance.
Thanks. There's a lot of people who like all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let me show you this next book on our list. Make that a little bit bigger for you guys. This is You Can't Always Get What You Haunt by Ellen Riggs, and it's the first of 7 books in the Mystic Mutt Mysteries, a magical cozy mystery series. The other books are $3 to $6 each, but they are all in Kindle Unlimited, and Regina read this for us. And Regina, what do you think of this book?
Well, I like the paranormal a lot, so I began this book with enthusiasm. Janelle is a reluctant psychic and a possible witch returning home after 15 years to the family in her old hometown. And in the first paragraph, she implies she's also running from an unidentified danger. While it's always better if a story opens with some action going on to push it forward, Janelle's narrative starts a little too much in the middle, I think, making the context a bit hard to follow. There's a cousin and the cousin's best friend, her mother, accompanied by a trusted advisor whose purpose is not given, and her gran, all thrown into the opening page, along with the fact that the characters have been engaged in a showdown of some kind at a jewelry shop, which is not identified. On the second page, she describes having escaped being killed and possibly solving 2 murders while visiting her gran, only to walk into the jewelry shop wanting a necklace with a dachshund repaired, a little dachshund figurine. An attack is made on her life there, and she barely escapes. This helps her decide that safety lies back in her hometown after all. In the car driving home, Janelle hears a voice and begins a conversation with the speaker, who is not identified to us at first, but who is, it turns out, 2 pages later, is a dachshund who has come over from the Vale, across the Vale, to help her. As they talk, Janelle speaks about her car, of which she is very fond, for it has been a great support. I could relate to this part, for I talk to my car. I have to say, by the end of the first chapter, I was thinking of stopping. I was uncertain about the plot, not at all drawn to the characters, and the dog made me think of an English butler because his conversation was rather bland, despite his ethereal nature and origins. In the next chapter, chapter 2, during a pit stop, Janelle and the dog discuss what's in the trunk of her car. This is out of the blue. A book she liberated from a witch titled Everyday Spells for Everyday Magic. I perked up at this brand new detail since witches' lore is often fascinating, but very little is said about this in the book because the car behind them is a threat, according to the dog, and they start a treacherous jaunt across fields and a creek until they escape once again. The first indicator of Janelle's psychic skills comes soon after, when at a fork in the road, she gets out to assess which direction to take and gets hit with negative energy. Turning away from its fierce force, she and the dog take the other road instead. What happens next in this paranormal story, I do not know because I stopped reading, though from the blurb, it seems she finds her mother is missing from the family manor, and Janelle will have to use newfound powers and friends to save her town, I assume, and also her mother. If you like a meandering and somewhat confusing narrative, and a lot of surprise clues appearing without context, the book has an endearing tone, all the same, that you will enjoy, I think.
Enjoy those kinds of books. I do like magical cozy mysteries. This is what I thought that other book was going to be like. You know, like twists, quirky characters, that kind of thing. So let's go on to the next book. The next book on today's list is Points of Origin. Let me make that a tad bigger so you guys can see it. Here you go. As you can see by the space-themed illustration, it is a space opera. Points of Origin by E.S. Fein is a standalone philosophical space opera. But if you do like the author's style, he's got plenty of other books up on Amazon and some free stories you can check out on his website. And I've put the links in the article that goes with these reviews. And the link to this article is down below. I'll add those links to the description as well. So Terrence read this book, and I bet Terrence is going to have some more links for us to add to our description. Right, Terrence?
Yeah. You know, I'm all about the Amazon alternatives.
Yep. Yeah. We
Okay,
know.
so points. Yeah, so I'm not too far into this book as of yet, but I am already interested in the story. It starts at literally the end of time, where the protagonist, a guy named Amuro, awakens from a deep meditation and he's sitting alone on a beach and the moon is gone and virtually all the stars in the sky have gone out. And he reflects on how he wound up at that point. So it goes back to the distant past, or at least his distant past, which is the future within our context. And in this future, he lives in a society governed by the new government, which is a strictly fundamentalist theocracy where homosexuality is outlawed and potentially punishable by death. And we see Amuro in the bedroom of his latest sexual encounter and having a joint in the morning, and he was awakened by the rumbling of several consecutive rockets going off, which is an unusual occurrence. And not long after, on his way to work, he gets a call from his buddy Dave, who works in the new covenant, and Dave tells Amuro that they're looking to send two homosexual men on a mission to a star out in the galaxy, because if the mission fails, then in this society, homosexual men are expendable. The thing I liked about how this story opened up is that the way Amuro described his meditative experience, it was using terminology reminiscent of Buddhist philosophy. I studied Buddhism a little bit back in my college days, and I still do some Buddhist meditation occasionally. So that element of the story got me into things. I also thought it was refreshing that we have a homosexual protagonist in one of these space operas. Usually some dashing straight to white dude. I think we need more science fiction stories like this with gay protagonists because the homosexuality, the homosexual community is very much under attack, especially in today's times. And hopefully, maybe a story like this will help remind people that, hey, homosexuals are people too. So, while, as I said before, I'm not too far into this story, but I am interested in where it is going. So I might continue with this if my ADHD tendencies don't get in the way. And if you're interested in this story as well, you could read it off of your Amazon ebook or subscription service, or you could buy a physical copy from bookshelf.org or pals.com to support independent bookstores and not give more money to an oligarch that already has way more money than he'll ever need.
All right. Oh, I also want to mention to everybody, if you haven't seen Terrence before, he also writes dystopian science fiction, and we're editing one of his books now for publication next year, hopefully, knock on wood, if the edits are done. And when he's not
eternity later.
and when he's not doing that, he's a video game reviewer and he's our art editor. And we have a new comic strip on our website, which is called Spell Check by Nat Couture. And we've published, 13 episodes of it already, Terrence?
Yeah, the 13th episode is going up next week, and the most recent one went up yesterday. We'll have the link to those comics in the video description.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, before we go on to book number 1 on today's list, the box set by the USA Today bestselling author, I want to thank our supporters. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Here we are. MW Frenzel is the newest member of our Patreon community. And we also have a couple of people who are supporting us on this YouTube channel by joining, because there's a small membership fee if you want to join. But otherwise, subscription is just free. So MetaStellar is run by volunteers. We've got about 100 people working on MetaStellar right now, judging stories, editing stories, doing a whole bunch of production stuff, doing all the video production. So Emma is also doing storytime videos. And we have so much stuff going on. So I mentioned that we've got some anthologies up. We've got books that we're serializing. Definitely pick up Gods and Monsters if you haven't yet, or you can read it online at MetaStellar, links in the description box below. This book is on a Nebula Award reading list for next year. It is an absolutely awesome urban fantasy, very mystical, very philosophical, just a fantastic read, and it's the first book we serialized. Super happy. We also just finished serializing RENNA'S Crossing. Our 4th anthology is now up and is in all the bookstores, and Emma headed up that project, and we have 3 other annual anthologies, best of the year, And all the money that comes in through our Patreon supporters goes to pay for original fiction. Nothing else. It goes directly to the authors. All of our website hosting is donated. All the labor is donated. All the money goes to our authors. So if you want to support human writers writing about human stuff with their human hands, please join our community. And there's some perks that you're going to get. I think we send people t-shirts and other stuff. And you get to join our Saturday morning drop-in Zoom call, which is every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Regina is usually, sometimes they're often there. Emma's often there. Often we get other members of our writers community and our editing staff and our volunteers. And we talk about writing stuff and editing stuff. And then sometimes we just sit and quietly write. So depending on what we need that day. So if you join us, you'll get access to that Zoom call as well. So please do that. It means the world to us. We literally would not be here without you guys. All right, let's go on to book number 1 on today's list, which I read the beginning of. Song of Dragons by Daniel Arenson. This is a box set of all 3 books in the Songs of Dragons epic fantasy trilogy. But that trilogy is itself part of the 21-book Requiem epic fantasy universe. And Daniel Arenson is a USA Today bestselling author. And this full universe has 7 trilogies in it, which can be read in any order. And the box sets of them are $8 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. And individual books are $3 to $5 each, and they're also not in Kindle Unlimited. The author has been on this Free Friday list a lot. Thousands of 5-star reviews for his books. People love him. And I've read the beginnings of a bunch of his books. And I have not finished any of them because his writing is a little dark and a little grim. And I'm a little, I don't know, soft and squishy. So even the cover of this book looks dark and grim.
But you like reading about people getting killed.
You
like reading about getting people killed, don't you?
I like cartoon violence, where it's a little bit distant, so you're not right in the middle of the gore. And maybe there's some funny quips along the way, And so, yes, I did just write a scene about a bunch of people being beheaded in the novel I'm currently working on. But, it's a fun kind of beheading. You don't really feel the beheading, Anyway, back to this book. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys so you can see this cover and see how grim it is. So the book opens with war, literally the word war. And we learned that millions of people have died and only 5,000 people are left from this particular race of people. And they're now marching to their doom. And once they're gone, their race will perish. And the leader of this army is a guy named Benedictus. And then their enemy is far up ahead, and they can see it. And the enemy army is 10 times larger than theirs. And the leader of the enemy army is Benedictus's brother. So this is the evil brother. And the main difference between these 2 groups is that Benedictus and his 5,000 people could turn into dragons. And the other guys could not turn into dragons. And apparently the brother is a little annoyed about that. And he's really pissed about it. And he's taken it out on Benedictus and the millions of people who are dragon shifters. And although they don't turn into dragons, they do have another advantage, and that is that they have griffins on their side. And the griffins show up for this battle, and the griffins outnumber the dragons 5 to 1. And even though Benedictus turns into a dragon and he can breathe fire, and everyone around him turns into a dragon, including the littlest babies, they're defeated. They're pretty much all wiped out, and it's a brutal battle sequence. All right, like I said, this is a grim book. A lot of blood, a lot of gore, a lot of death, a lot of children die. So if you prefer your children to stay alive, let this be a warning to you. And then we skip ahead 10 years. So it's 10 years later, and Miriam's father was killed by this evil brother. And she was 16 then, and she swore allegiance to the evil brother so that he'd let her live. And he let her stay in the smallest of the forts that her family owned. And at first I was a little confused, like, who is her father? Is her father Benedictus? Because we were talking about Benedictus in the previous chapter. But no, it seems like her father was like some other random dude. And the brother killed her dad, then raped her, and then kind of stayed away from her for 10 years, and now he's back. And he rode in on the back of a griffin with a couple of his people also riding griffins. And his arm was bitten off by Benedictus, and he's replaced it with a steel arm that's covered with jewels. And instead of a fist, he's got a mace head on it. So really gruesome. And the reason he's there, and this is what Miriam is really scared of, is that she's been hiding a little boy in her fort, in the tower there. And she found him when he was a little child on the battlefield. He was the only survivor of this battle, and she felt really bad about it, and she saved him. And now the boy's older, and he likes to turn into a dragon and fly around at night. And one of the villagers must have reported that there's a dragon in this area. And so the big brother, the evil brother, has shown up, and he's looking for this dragon. And he suspects that Miriam is hiding him. And so this is a very tense beginning. And during this description, there's a lot of flashbacks to horrible violence, and there's a lot of implied violence in the interaction between the evil brother and Miriam and the other people who are with him. And it's very tense, very dark, very grim. And I understand people like this kind of writing. It's at the top of the Free Friday list. The books sell very well. They get great reviews. So this is just me. And so if you're a little tougher than I am, you'd probably enjoy it. It does have a Game of Thrones kind of vibe in terms of the writing style. And
does everyone die in this story?
Judging by Arenson's other books, maybe, and there are dragons here. But yeah, I couldn't get into Game of Thrones, and I couldn't get into this series. But I think a lot of our readers, a lot of our viewers will like it very much. If you do, let us know in the comments below. All right, that's it for today's books. Let us know if you like them. Let us know if you like the romantic more, or if you like the death and gore more. We have a new Humans Are Magic mug, and this illustration is by Nat Couture, our
magic.
Look how cute that is. Look how cute it is. I haven't received mine yet, but when I do, I'm going to hold it up. But right now, I can hold up the regular MetaStellar mug. And this one comes in 3 different sizes, and I'm going to add a link to it in the description box below. All right, everybody, have a very happy weekend. Enjoy your free reading. Thanks, Emma, Regina, and Terrence for joining us. Emma, by the way, joined us from the UK, where she's getting a PhD in creative writing. Oh, I forgot to mention this. Yeah, so Emma is a book coach and editor, and she's going to be helping me with my current project. And Regina writes fantasy and science fiction, and has a little mystical element to her writing. And her books are linked down in the description box below. And my books are on the free science fiction bestseller list. So very happy about that. Thanks, you guys. I love you guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, and have a happy Friday. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.